Hey everyone, and welcome back Reelers. I'm Rob Harris and this is Rusty Reels. Today I'm going to be talking about the MCU. If you're like me and you enjoy Marvel films and the MCU movies, then you're going to want to watch this video because I'm going to be talking about the proper chronological order in which to watch the Infinity Saga films in the lead up to the release of the new Marvel Studios film, Avengers Endgame. Now, those of you that are hot on Instagram and are following the Russo brothers, you've probably seen that they've been releasing daily posts about what order to watch the films in. I'm not talking about the date order here, I'm talking about what they think is the best chronological order of events from the start to the very end of the Infinity Saga. So I do agree with them on about 95% of things, but I do have a slight disagreement when it comes to Phase 1. I know this is pretty much decided in what order to watch things, but I'm going to give you a very good reason why I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. Phase 2, I pretty much completely agree with them there. But when it comes to Phase 3, this is where things get a little bit muddled. And why? It comes after Civil War. In the 2 years between the release of Civil War and Avengers Infinity War, there are a few films in the middle there, and it's what order in which to watch these and what is the correct timeline order to watch them. Well, I'm going to be giving you the real deal on Rusty Reels right now, and we're going to comment on what we believe is the correct chronological order to watch. So no surprises, first up is Captain America, the First Avenger. Definitely no surprises there. This film takes place back in the Second World War. So this is back in like the 1940s, so of course this isn't going to be up for debate in terms of which one you should watch first. Yes, I know there are some after-credit moments that happen more modern day right before the first Avengers film, but you could probably take these as teasers or enticers towards that point in the chronological series. Okay, second up is quite a new release for Marvel. It's Captain Marvel. If you haven't seen the film yet, I highly recommend that you do before Endgame. And in terms of timeline, it takes place in the 90s. We see a much younger Nick Fury. He's quite fresh over at S.H.I.E.L.D. And there were some nice little Easter eggs that kind of, set things up for Endgame quite well, but also relate to other points within the timeline. Third up is the original, the first release from the MCU, Iron Man. This remains as still probably one of my highest rated preferences of the whole MCU. It was so good at the time of release, it was just such a good adaptation and kick-started the whole MCU franchise. Who would have thought back then that we'd be here 10, 11 years later, so excited to see the end of this chapter of the MCU. So yeah, this takes place third. What takes place at number 4, many of you might think is the sequel to this film, but actually, I'm going to say it isn't. Number 4, what I believe to be next in the series is The Incredible Hulk. Now, before you disagree, consider this. If you look online, you will find out that there are debates that The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2 and Thor all happen within the same week. There's even a tie-in comic book called Nick Fury's Busy Week or something like that. And it talks about how all the events of that film are happening at the same time. Now, those of you that have seen Iron Man 2 know that Thor is kind of tied in because Agent Coulson has to leave at one point and after credits reveal him to be in the desert with Mjolnir. And that leads nicely onto Thor. But The Incredible Hulk doesn't really have anything that takes place in the film that really speaks to where it can go. What's nice about it is you can slot it anywhere. Also, at the end of Incredible Hulk, you have the scene when Tony Stark shows up wanting to talk to the General about the Avengers Initiative. And I feel like this works quite well following the after credits of Iron Man. But that's when Nick Fury first introduces himself to talk to Tony Stark about the Avengers. So we can watch The Incredible Hulk and it kind of has that same feeling, him talking about the team. And this is why I think it should be number 4, because Iron Man 2, which is my number 5, and Thor are so nicely placed together to roll onto one another. I feel like you can then go on to the first Avengers film and things feel very smooth from there. So let's put Incredible Hulk in between Iron Man and Iron Man 2, and that just makes everything flow a lot better. We see a lot more of Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff talking about the initiative and how Tony Stark can play into their recruitment. And they even mention his whole thing about being a consultant as well. Then we go on to number 6, which is Thor. So following the after credits of Iron Man 2, Coulson, Desert, Mjolnir, then we go over to Thor and we see the events unfold where he's booted to Earth, powerless. That's where his adventures start. Also, the good thing about this is that the after credit sequence for Thor rolls nicely onto the Avengers film. This is because we see Dr. Selvig meeting Nick Fury, seeing the Tesseract, and Loki's kind of weirdly there. In any case, this flows the best onto the Avengers, or in the UK, Avengers Assemble. So at number 7 we have the first Avengers film, or Avengers Assemble. I'm not really going to talk about this because we all know that this should be next in the sequence. And the after credits also reveal that Thanos is the main protagonist of the whole series. Moving on at number 8, we then see Iron Man 3. So this follows on nicely from the Avengers. You've got Tony Stark dealing with his PTSD from taking the bomb up into space and, struggling with the whole alien attack. I know the after credits don't really do much. It kind of has him kind of being shrinked by Bruce Banner, but chronologically this fits very nicely at number 8. At number 9 we have the rather disappointing sequel to Thor. It's Thor 2: The Dark World. The only kind of significant thing in this film is that it introduces us to the Ether, which is the Reality Stone, and this ends up in the hands of the Collector. At number 10, this is probably one of the best things to come out of the MCU, is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This follows on nicely because it's got Steve Rogers having now being established within S.H.I.E.L.D. and their operations. It also talks about Hydra infiltrating everything and the collapse of the organisation of S.H.I.E.L.D. The after credits reintroduce us to Loki's scepter, which somehow, through the whole dissolvement of S.H.I.E.L.D., has ended up in the hands of Hydra, and it's also resulted in the experimentation that has led to the creation of Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. So this does kind of nicely roll on to the second Avengers film, but at 11 and 12 there are a couple more films that you're really going to watch first. At 11 it's Guardians of the Galaxy. This is our introduction to a whole new branch of characters coming away from Earth and kind of starting its own storyline that lines in sync with the events that help tie in Thanos. And this is the first time we see Thanos, and he's really loving that chair. I don't think he stands up once. Actually, after Avengers he does. But still, loving the chair. In terms of the timeline, the next thing that takes place is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. In respect to the chronological order of things, this takes place about 6 months after the first Guardians film. Unlucky at number 13 is the second Avengers film, The Age of Ultron. Now this wasn't bad, but it definitely wasn't as strong as the first Avengers film. However, it does give you a lot in terms of the advancement of the storyline, in terms of opening up the plot to so many areas towards Phase 3. So I do find it is actually quite a critical film, while not the best. Following this at number 14 is AntMan. The tie-in that this film has is it leads on very nicely to number 15, which is the third Captain America film, Civil War. This is where the Avengers have a bit of a breakup. So Tony Stark and Steve Rogers have their fallout, which results in the kind of dissolvement of the Avengers a little bit. Steve Rogers is on the lam. Bucky is taken in by T'Challa in Wakanda. And now, I feel like these first 15 I'm very happy with in terms of the order, but when we get onto the next ones, this is where things get open towards a little bit of debate. Now, I have a real good reason why these things are in the order they should be here, and I'm going to explain why. Next up, I think, number 16, Black Panther. The reason I think this is because Black Panther takes place pretty much immediately after Civil War. T'Challa heads back to Wakanda because his father has passed away and they're going to be doing kind of like his naming ceremony as the new king. Now moving on to 17, this will be SpiderMan Homecoming. The reason for this, I know that there's a bit at the beginning when he's kind of done a first-person recording of the events of Civil War, but then he's on the subway later on and a few months have passed. So actually, we're seeing this a few months after the situation surrounding Civil War. So that is why I think it is number 17, following the Black Panther. At number 18, I believe this to be Doctor Strange. Now, while there are a few things that happen probably in the lead up to the actual point where the majority of the action and stuff happens, so the Doctor's accident and him searching and learning magic and everything else probably takes you up to a certain point, it covers a large spectrum. So you can pretty much put this in maybe somewhere else, but I feel it fits nicely in the middle here because following Civil War, we have Black Panther, then we have Spider-Man. Then I feel like Doctor Strange gives you this nice bit in the middle that introduces you to the Time Stone and Doctor Strange, and it ties in very nicely onto what comes next. So the after credits kind of introduce you to Thor at a moment that takes place in Ragnarok, which is my number 19. So the events surrounding this I know pretty much happen right up to the point of Infinity War when we see the beginning and the ship being attacked. So the reason this is number 19 is because my number 20 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. And the reason this is number 20 happening right before Infinity War, although it came out after that film, these events actually take place probably a bit before Infinity War, and then the after credits take you to a point pretty much happening around the same time of Infinity War. Then this leads us on to number 21, Avengers Infinity War. And of course we all know the events here, the Avengers lose. This leads us nicely on to number 22, Endgame. So guys, this is the Rusty Reel's definitive chronological MCU list. I know some people are going to have differences of opinions here and they might watch things in another order, but this is what I believe the proper order to watch the MCU movies is. And then phase 3, I know it gets a bit choppy, people might want to swap a few things around, but this is what I believe to be the true order. So guys, let me know what you think. I know this is open to debate, so comment below on the deal with the reel. Let me know, do you agree or do you disagree with what I've said? Is there a different order and your reasons why for that order? Don't just say you're wrong, say why I'm wrong. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more of my videos and other video content, head on over to Rusty Reels and check it out there. Or maybe give one of these a watch. Don't forget to subscribe as well and make sure that you click the bell so you know when future videos are released. Thanks very much for watching everyone, as always, and in the meantime, just be real.